Good morning, Boker Tov. Welcome back to Parsha Perspectives for today. Great to be together again and continue our march through Sefer Bereshis. No matter how many times we've read these parshios, we've learned them, and for some reason we're hearing ourselves. I don't know why that's happening, that echo. I do know. Sorry about that. Anyway, again, it's great to be marching through Sefer Bereshis together. And no matter how many times we've learned these stories, these parshios, there's new perspectives, new ideas, new inspiration that jumps out of the psukim and off the page into our lives each and every year. Parsha Chayei Sarah, Tafshin Pei Hey is different than Tafshin Pei Dalet and different than it will be in Tafshin Pei Vav. Every year is different. We're different. The world is different. And the filter and glasses through which we see and read and interpret and learn the Parsha is different. So it's constantly changing. Parsha series is generously sponsored by Becky and Avi Katz and family in memory of David Grossman, Ili Nishmas, David Menachem Manish. This morning's shir is sponsored by Elaine Trachtenberg and Andrea and Alan Lieberman for the refuah shlema of Esther Bas Chasha Chasya Golda. Should have a complete, speedy, and painless refuah shlema. Thank you, as always, to all of our generous sponsors. We have the tables and chairs. We're constantly making improvements and upgrades here. Coffee, slushies, pastries, new minyanim in the morning and at night, tables and chairs. Join us here at BRS live and in person to come learn. Page 106 in the Art Scroll Stone Chumash. Our parsha begins. Chayei Sarah 100 shana be'asrim shana be'sheva shanim shnei Chayei Sarah. Sarah's lifetime was 100 years old and 20 years old and 7 years old. These were the years of Sarah's life. I don't know about you. I feel like we're just getting to know her. How could she pass away? How could she disappear so quickly? We just met her. We're just getting to know her. There's so little dialogue, so little conversation. There's so little we know of Sarah from the text itself. And already, Lech Lecha Vayera, that's it. Beginning of Chayei Sarah, it's already her funeral. She's already gone. We barely know her. What we know is she's enormously significant. We won't spend time now. We've spoken about in the past that once Sarah expires, once Sarah is gone, Avraham lives for more than 30 more years, but we don't learn or know anything more about his influence or contribution in the world, because without his partner, without his other half, without Sarah, he is utterly incomplete. And even though he may have another co-wife and he may have a future throughout which he lives the twilight of his life, it's not Sarah. Sarah is his partner. Sarah's on this mission. Sarah transforms the world with him, and without her, he cannot continue in the same way, which is why immediately after burying her, he pivots. Yitzchak needs a wife. I now am incomplete. I can't have the impact I once did, and therefore, it's time to begin to pass the mantle to Yitzchak. Yitzchak needs a wife. I need a legacy. I need a future. I need a continuity. I need to make a contribution, whether it's with his own biological child or we make contributions in this world. There are those who don't have biological children, but they have countless spiritual children. Think about the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Schus Yagen Aleinu. The great Lubavitcher Rebbe didn't have biological children of his own. And there are other great giants of our Torah history who didn't have biological children, but their influence, their impact, the legacy they left, they transformed the world radically. So Avram pivots. Right after he completes burying Sarah, he realizes, I need a wife for Yitzchak. I need a legacy. I need a future. Maybe my direct contribution is beginning to wane, but my indirect contribution, my legacy contribution, my continuity contribution, it's time to focus on. Rashi famously tells us, Chayei Sarah, she lived 127 years. That is not the most efficient way of telling us. It would have been much more efficient to simply say she lived 127 years. Nobody puts on a tombstone, she was 127 years old. You know why? Because you pay by the letter on the tombstone. So no, that's not why. The reason nobody does that, even if it were free, even if you got a bulk deal, no matter how many letters you want on one tombstone, special deal for Mar Cheshvan. Doesn't matter. You still wouldn't write 100 years and 20 years and 7 years, because that's not a normal way of describing someone's age. The normal way is 127 years. So why do we say 100 years and 20 years and 7 years? Zakt Rashi, lekach nichtav shana b'chol klal uchlal lo melacha, shekol echad nidrash la'atzmo. Because each is significant in their own right, we don't just combine them. 100 years, 20 years, 7 years. Bas kuf kebas chaf l'chet. When she was 100, she was as pure and as innocent as 20 when it came to sin, mistakes, indiscretions. Why 20? Because a person is only subject to onash, is only subject to punishment at 20. We're liable when we become bar mitzvah, when we reach the age of majority. But we only suffer consequences, onash, at 20. Ma bas chaf lochata areina bas onshin, af bas kuf lochat chet ubas chaf kebas zayin liofi. When she was 20, she had the complexion and the jubilance and the joy and the energy and the sweetness of a 7-year-old. So 120 and 7, because they're significant to each component of her age. And then Rashi continues, Shnei Chayei Sarah, these are the years of Sarah's life. Says Rashi, a very cryptic comment, Kulan Shavin Latova. They were all equal in goodness. They were all equal. So there weren't, sometimes people hit a milestone birthday. So what do you say at the birthday party? Which was your favorite decade? Which decade, what period of your life, which unit, what was your favorite? Which had the biggest impact? Which would you rewind the clock to? What was the best? What were the best years of your life, the best decade of your life? Which was the best century of your life? Which was the best of your life? Which century did you like the most, Rabbi Fox? Which was the best of your life? In Sarah's case, Kulan Shavin Latova. They were all good. Now, that would be believable if you weren't aware of Sarah's life. But if you started to study Sarah's life, you learn it wasn't always easy. And yet, nevertheless, Rashi describes Kulan Shavin Latova. So I want to start out. I got a new sefer. I'm very grateful to my friend J. Bar David for sending me this sefer. It's a new sefer that came out recently called Emuna Ubitachon from Rav David Avuchatzera Shlita. The great Rav David Avuchatzera from the Baba Sali, from the Avuchatzeras in Nahariya. If you've ever been there, it's a long schlep to the northern border. They should be safe and well in the north. Get a bracha. He has a sefer Emuna Bitachon, and it was published specifically now during the war. Lessons, messages of Emuna Bitachon. I think we're going to study a part of it in the Emuna Shir. But as I was looking through it, there was a parak, a chapter that jumped out that speaks specifically to the opening of our parsha. That's why we're incorporating a little Emuna Shir into the Parsha Shir, a little combo deal that you get today. So he says the following. There's a concept called hishtavus. We spoke about it last week in the Emunah Shir. Hishtavus is equanimity. Equanimity. My friend Rabbi Moshe Gersh wrote a book. It's all the same to me, which is all about this concept, this quality called hishtavus, equanimity. Equanimity is a fancy way of saying you don't get fazed, you don't get frazzled, nothing bothers you. You never get too happy, you never get too sad. You're never too excited, you're never too depressed. You recognize and you live life understanding and interpreting and receiving that all that happens is from Hashem and it's what's meant to be. So the candidate you didn't want to win won. You don't get too bent out of shape because you realize somehow it's all part of Hashem's master plan. You did your part. The candidate you did want to win won. You don't get too gleeful and joyful and spike a football before you're in the end zone that everything is going to be amazing and perfect and all the world's problems are solved because everything is from Hashem. You could be optimistic, but we don't know. Hishtavus means whatever happens in our life, good news, bad news, in between news, there's an equanimity. It's all equal to me. It's all equal to me. That doesn't mean that we deny or deprive ourselves of normal human emotion. If someone experiences loss, there's sadness. If someone experiences a simcha, a joyous milestone in the family, there's happiness. It's okay to have emotions and feelings, but all within range, within reason, hishtavus. There's an equanimity. And that's where the Baal Shem Tov and others, it precedes the Baal Shem Tov. But they get this from the Pasuk. Shivisi Hashem Lenegdi Samid, the first opening halacha of all Shulchan Aruch, the whole code of Jewish law is, Hashem is opposite us always. Shivisi Hashem, Hashem is opposite me, Tamid, always, consistently, constantly. Shivisi, He's by my side, His arm is around my shoulder, He's with me as I'm living my life. Even when, Adam Chalila Din Bebechinas Lenegdi. Shivisi Hashem, even when Lenegdi, even when it seems He's opposite. What's He doing? Why the resistance? Why the obstacles? Why is He against me? Why am I back at a doctor's office? Why am I again waiting for a lab? Why do I again not know how to put food on my table? Why am I again lonely or waiting for a spouse, a mate? Why Lenegdi? Even when it feels Hashem and the world are against me, Shivisi Hashem, hishtavus. I don't get bent out of shape. I don't get phased or frazzled. It's all an equanimity. It's all from Hashem. I'm going to navigate and I'm going to figure out this ride. And then he goes on, he says the following. I'm skipping a little bit because I want to bring it back to the Parsha. Mahusa shamidas hishtavus mispareshes lanu mechayeha shel Sarah imenu aleha shalom. Where do we learn before the Baal Shem Tov? Before David HaMelech gave us this pasuk, Shivisi Hashem. Before the Shulchan Aruch codified it as the way we have to begin our day at every moment of the day. Where do we learn this from? The paradigm of it, Sarah imenu, is our matriarch Sarah. Rashi says, Kulan Shavan Latova. Rashi told us that all the years of her life were equal in being good. Excuse me, V'yesh Lahavin. Kavanasa Sharashi. What in the world is Rashi talking about? Kulan Shavan Latova? B'mehayu yameh Shavan Latova. Eza Tova Isala b'mechaya. Where was the good in her life? A simple review of the years of her life, not an intense, not a comprehensive biography. A simple review of Sarah's life. You see, her whole life was filled with tests, tribulations, trials. When she was 15, she married Avraham, who was 25. And immediately afterwards, her new husband, was thrown in the fiery furnace. Nimrod tried to murder him. It took a miracle for him to survive. Then they're given a command. I know you just unpacked. I know you just put away all your new silver and your crystal and your bread maker and your blender and your, I don't know, whatever else people get at their shower. I know you just got married. I know you just unpacked. But guess what? Lech lecha. Pack up. We're heading out. Where? I don't know. You'll find out. Newlyweds. Pack up, head out. Where? You'll find out. So there they go, and what happens? They make it to their promised land, a famine. So now this newlywed couple, now Sarah has no idea where she's going to eat. But don't worry, because what does her husband say? Get in the box, pretend you're my sister. Did it work? No. Nonetheless, Paro, the head of Egypt, takes her, and it takes a miracle for her to be spared, #MeToo, for her to be spared being violated. It takes a miracle. They return to Israel, but now she's suffering infertility, not for a few months or years, for decades. She's waiting, she's longing, she's desperate to have a child. Then her husband goes off, deciding he has to rescue his nephew, enters a world war of 4 kings and 5 kings, irrationally. She has no idea if he'll come home. He does come home, but she has this nephew who remains a thorn in her side. Her husband takes a co-wife. She has a stepchild. Her whole life is filled with trials, tribulations, challenges. I don't want to spend the entire Parsha Shir describing. She has to expel her stepson from the house in order to attempt to protect her own son. And then how does it all end? What was her cause of death on her death certificate? She was scared to death. How? Why? Because someone came to report, your husband took that son, the one you waited for, the one you longed for, your only son, top of a mountain, raised the knife to fulfill God's command to slaughter. And before she got to the punchline, don't worry, he's okay. She had a heart attack and she died. And now we're at her funeral and we're reflecting on her life. And now we get up. Can you imagine the rabbi gets up and says, what a life. It was amazing. All of it. Kula and Shavan Latova. Her entire life from beginning to end was good, pleasant, pleasurable, happy, easy. I'm sorry, Rabbi, you're at the wrong funeral. You're speaking about the wrong person. You obviously didn't spend time meeting with the family. You have no idea what's going on. You have no idea what's going on. That's her life. We could go on and on. Eliezer quotes the Chida Racham Yosef David Azulai in his Pnei David and Chayei Sarah, who says, what does it mean by Chayei Sarah? Tevas vayihiyu nikres yashar v'hafuch. Lirmos, you can read vayihiyu, vav yud he yud vav, is what's called a, you can read it in both directions, it reads the same, frontwards and backwards. Palindrome? Vayiyu, you read it the same forwards and backwards. Why, says the Chida? Our Parsha is introduced with the word vayihiyu. Not yihiyu, vayihiyu, because there's a vav at the end, vav at the beginning, vav yud he yud vav, palindrome back and forward. Why? Lirmos is a hint. If you look front to back or back to forward, no matter how you review her life, it was all good. It was all equal. It was all the same. We, as observers to her life, historians chronicling her life, we say, what a tough life. Trials, tribulations, tests, what a difficult life. But that's not how Sarah lived her life. She lived her life that no matter what came her way, hishtavus, equanimity. It didn't faze her. She's waiting, she's longing, get in the box, come out of the box, go to Israel, down to Egypt, Yishmael, Yitzchak, kulan shav, hishtavus, equanimity. When you live with faith, emunah, bitachon, dvekas, when you cling to Hashem, then you're able to receive and accept and interpret whatever happens in life with equanimity. It's from Hashem. There are moments of sadness and moments of happiness, moments of joy and moments of grief. We're not denying human emotion. Nevertheless, philosophically, in our overall attitude, in our approach, kulan shavan latova, hishtavus, hishtavus. Ve'ein ze davar shama bekach, halo kama she'adam yechazak asher yeh, kasher over ke'elu nisyonos, yachal chas v'shalom l'oretz madregaso. V'imzo Sarah imenu lo rasa shumra be'anhagas haborei. Sarah lived her life, never blamed God, never accused God, was never angry or bitter at God, was never resentful at God. She accepted, she received, she lived her life, kulan shavan latova. And therefore the Torah comes to tell us, these are Shnei Chayei Sarah. Z'mavad kol ma shedarsha begadusa shel Sarah b'tchilas hapasuk, paskuf kebaschaf belochei paschaf kolazayin yofi, limud nusaf yesh lanu. V'lidrosh begadlusa shel Sarah imenu, shekulan shavan latova. 100 like 20, 20 like 7, but really all the years were the same. Shebachol yemei chayei kima ma she'amar b'gemara b'shmei Rabbi Akiva. La'olam ye'adam ragel lomar kol David rachman l'tavad Avid. Gemara quotes in the name of Rabbi Akiva that a person should live their life and always say, all that God does is for the good. Painful things happen to good people, bad things don't, because it's all good. It's all good. It's all the same to me, and it's all good. And whatever happened in that moment, even when it's difficult to accept, to receive, sometimes, nevertheless, it's all good. It's painful. Painful things happen to good people. Bad things don't happen, because if it's from God, it's all good. Komanda Avid Rahman Latav Avid. We work and fight and struggle to live that way each and every day. Sarah lived it. Forward and backwards. Vayihiyu, palindrome. She lived it. Kulan shavan latova, hishtavus, equanimity. That's what we learn from Sarah. He goes on and he speaks more about Sarah. That's what it means. Avraham came lispod l'Sarah v'liv kosa. He came to cry. Where did he come from? Har HaMoriah, she died. So why do we have the Akedah next to Chayei Sarah? Because Mehechan Ba, where did he come from, Avram? To mourn, to grieve, to bury her, to eulogize her? He came, Mehechan Yachal Liftoach L'daber. How do you begin to talk about her? Avram, his life mission was with her. The two of them set out, transformed the world, introduced or spread, made ethical monotheism viral. V'amda b'chol asar, they withstood 10 tests together. Mehechan Ba, Lispod La'osa Tzadekes. Where did he come? Mehar HaMoriah. It means that all she received, all she experienced, everything that happened. He came to eulogize her. That Shnei Chayei Sarah, she's still alive. Shavan Latova. When we emulate her way, when we live her life, when we walk in her footsteps, when for us too, Kulal and Shavan Latova, equanimity. It's all the same to me. Calm, cool, collect. I never get too phased. My highs aren't too high and my lows aren't too low. Yes, there are ups and downs. That's life. As Mori V'Rabbi Rav Avram Shor says, life is ups and downs. If you go for an EKG and you have a straight line, what does it mean? You don't want a straight line in your life. If there are no ups and downs, you're no longer alive. If there are no ups and downs, you have a straight line, it means you are no longer alive. To be alive is to have ups and downs. But despite life taking us on this roller coaster of ups and downs, our highs shouldn't be too high, our lows shouldn't be too low. Like Sarah Imenu, Kulan Shavan Latova. They should all be good. Perach of Gimel Pasuk Beis. Vatama Sarah beKiryas Arba, Chevron. Sarah passes away in Kiryas Arba, which is Chevron. Peretz Canaan in Israel. Avram Espod the Sarah, V'liv Kosa. Avram comes in order to eulogize Sarah, V'liv Kosa, and to cry about her. Rashi says, Nisbach Hamisa Sarah La'akedes Yitzchak. We have a juxtaposition. We begin our Parsha with her death, right after the end of last week's Parsha, the binding, the test of Yitzchak. Shal Yidei Besuras HaKedesh Dame Beno L'Shchita. Why did she die? What was the cause of death? Scared to death. Every year I tell you, we learn from here how to deliver news. When you have children, you know how to call your parents. Mom, Yanko is fine. But listen to this crazy thing. He was on the playground, a thing happened, the ambulance came, we went to the house. He's fine. You start out with, fine. Now you can tell the crazy story. You don't start out with the crazy story and you don't know the end, because you see, Sarah Imenu, the messenger came and says, Shem told Avram, take your son, your only son, the one you love. Bring him on the mountain, slaughter him, offer him like a sacrifice. And Avram did, he listened. It took 3 days and he went and he put him and he lay and he lit the fire and he lifted the knife. Sarah, you with me? Sarah, you still there? It was too late. Even Hatzalah couldn't bring her back. It was too late. So you see from here the way to tell. Rashi waits. When does Rashi tell us this historical fact, the cause of death? Rashi adds his comment on the words to eulogize Sarah and to cry over her. Now, if Rashi is going to tell us the cause of death, where would you have expected those words to appear? The comment should come on which words? Vatama Sarah. She died. Zakt Rashi. What was the cause of death? She was scared to death. Rashi, Vatama Sarah, she died. Rashi has nothing to say. Now, when we get to Avram eulogized her and cried over her, let me tell you the cause of death. Says Rav Shmuel Berenbaum to Shmuel, that doesn't make sense. Rashi should have offered his comment when? On the words Vatama Sarah. Sarah died. Listen to what he says. Listen to what he says. Never saw this before in my life. A radical new change. I told you, every year we'll learn the Parsha, and you say, Chayei Sarah, been there, done that. I read that book. I read that book already 50 times. Give me another book. No, you didn't read the book. Listen to this interpretation. You didn't. You're never done. Every year we're different. The world is different. New commentaries on it. Endless, infinite inspiration from it. Listen to what he says. Because the cause of death, how Sarah died, was actually part of the way that Avram eulogized her. He included it in his eulogy. Why? Sarah, we have the whole story wrong. We think when she heard what Avram did with her son, she was disappointed, she was angry, she was resentful, she was scared, she was worried, and she died because she thought Avram followed through. We have it all wrong, says Rav Shmuel Berenbaum. When she heard that God chose her son to be offered as a sacrifice, to be taken, to be dedicated to him, she was happy. She was gratified. Her progeny, her son, he was the one who was chosen by God to be this offering, this olah. She did hear the ending. When she heard that it in fact didn't happen, that it didn't go through, because of the pain it caused her, after the excitement of thinking her son was the chosen one to be offered as the olah, as the korban, and it didn't happen, she was disappointed. Her whole desire, her whole yearning, her whole drive to have a child was never about her. Some people want children because you don't want to end up in the old age home by yourself. Who's going to take care of me? Who's going to bring me my slippers on the newspaper? Who's going to take care of me and feed me and bathe me? Or when you're younger and healthy and vibrant, who's the child who's going to entertain me and shop with me and go on vacation with me? People, for very selfish reasons, want children for themselves. But that wasn't Sarah. Why did Sarah want a child? Why did she long and pray and wait? Why did she want a child so badly? Exclusively to dedicate him in the service of Hashem. The ultimate service of Hashem is to be entirely dedicated to Hashem to the extent of being Moser Nefesh. So she heard her son would be such an example in perpetuity, would go down in history of Mesiras Nefesh, of being so devoted to God, he would give his life for him. And when that didn't happen, of course, she's happy her son's alive, but disappointed he didn't and wasn't the first to fulfill that role. It would have been the most public platform to make a Kiddush Hashem ever. Because Yitzchak could have demonstrated, I'm ready to love God not only with all my heart, with all my soul. I'm ready to give my life for him, to die al Kiddush Hashem. When she heard it wasn't actually fulfilled, caused her pain, and she died as a result of that. And Avram gets up and he says, anyone who has regret or thinks it's sad that Sarah died for this reason, no, this too was part of her greatness. Her greatness was she was ready to share, to lose her Yitzchak, because Yitzchak was never about her. Yitzchak was about being an Eved Hashem, a servant of God, how he can dedicate his life for Hashem, Where else do we see in Tanakh? A woman who waited and longed to have a child and wanted him just for God, not for herself. We see it with Chana. Sefer Shmuel. Chana goes to the Mishkan in Shiloh. You can go to Shiloh today, and on the ground is the footprint of where the Mishkan stood, and you'll always see a group of women, sadly, standing in the spot where Chana davened, also davening, waiting, longing. When Chana davens, the pasuk in Shmuel says, "Vatispalel al Hashem." It doesn't say "Vatispalel el Hashem." She davened to God. It says she davened about God. That's peculiar. She's waiting and longing and wants a child. She's turning to God to answer that plea for the child. She's not davening about God. She's davening to God. Why does it say "Vatispalel al Hashem" rather than "el Hashem"? So the commentators explain. She wasn't davening for herself. Vatispalel, she's davening about God. She says, God, here's the deal. You give me a son, he will be entirely devoted. I will raise him and nurture him and love him and train him and dedicate him and unleash him to serve you, which he does. Shmuel is dedicated to the Mishkan, to serve Eli, with Eli, to serve God. I don't want a child to get me my slippers, to pay my bills, to bring me my newspaper, to take care of me when I'm old. I want a child because I believe I can set him on a path, a trajectory to serve you and make you proud. Vatispalel al Hashem, not el Hashem. And that's the ultimate prayer we can offer for anything we want or need is God, please give me wealth or success and material things, not from me. How can I be your shliach? How can I be your ambassador or agent in this world? I need an expense account. You go to work and your boss says, I need you to go on a business trip and take care of X, Y, and Z. And you say, I need an expense. I'm happy to do it. I'll be the best one at it. I will get it done, but I need an expense account. Person's unhealthy. So you say to your boss, I can't go get that done because I'm unhealthy. I'm infirm. I'm weak. Give me strength. Make me healthy. Sky's the limit. So when we come to God, like Hannah, who taught us all how to pray, anyone who thinks that Judaism is biased, they're 100% correct. Judaism has a terrible bias against men and always puts women on a pedestal and always holds them high. And we learn all the laws of prayer from Hannah. Hannah, who couldn't be part of a minyan, but the Gemara in Brachos derives all the laws of prayer from Hannah, including this, that the best posture to turn to God to ask for something is not I want it and need it for me, but I represent you. I need health, strength, an expense account. I need calm, peace around me. I'll get it done. I'll make a Kiddush Hashem. I'll get it done, my mission in this world, but to complete my mission, Vatispalel al Hashem, not el Hashem. And that is what's happening here. Sarah too wanted a Yitzchak, not for herself, but for him. You hear it, entirely new view. Never heard this before. And that's why Rashi doesn't offer this comment on the words Vatama Sarah when she died. Where does Rashi tell us this little piece of history? The cause of death? On the eulogy. Because this was part of Avram's eulogy. Medrash tells us what was actually Avram's eulogy. I'll give you a hint. You sing it once a week. Avram's eulogy for Sarah that he authored, we sing once a week, Friday nights. Eishes Chayil. The last chapter of Mishlei was Avram's eulogy for Sarah. How and what? How do you unpack that for another time? Perach of Gimel, Pasuk Gimel. Vayakam Avram el Pnei Mesa. Avram gets up, Vaydaber b'nei Ches, and he goes to speak to Ches, and he says, Shemuni, figuratively, get me Ephron ben Tzochar. And Ephron was sitting among b'nei Ches, and Ephron answers Avram, and he says, whatever you want. Says of Shmuel Berenbaum. Tzarachim. We're starting out with a few Tiferes Shmuels, and we'll move on. What do I need the whole negotiations? In one pasuk, you could have said, Sarah died, Avram bought her a plot. Boom, done. I need to know the negotiation, the terms, the lawyers, the red line document, which comments made it into the final verdict. What do I need the whole details of the negotiation for? Just tell me. He bought the land from Ephron. We have a right to it. It was 400 shekel kesef. Done. What do I need? He went to speak to Bnei Ches. They said, who are you? Ger v'toshev Anochi. Introduced me to your leader. The leader says, I'll give it to you as a gift. I don't want it as a gift. I'll pay. They negotiate leave it all out. What do I need it for? V'yesh lomar. Shnei Avram Avinu eshkias kol kochosav b'chtei lelamed es ha'olam sheyesh ba'al abira. Avram's entire life is all about teaching the world there is a creator. There's an infinite, omnipotent one. There's a goal. There's a purpose. There's a mission for life. Avram's whole mission was to teach the world that God is not only the God of the heavens, but He's the God of earth. He's not only ephemeral, He's not only distant, He's not only in the heavens, but Amashpil l'ros b'shamayim uva aretz. God is down here. V'yasa she'aminu bo kol boy olam u'v'zeh yinikra Avram ha'ivri hoya me'ever echad sheba lefaris mes v'lakor mikol anshe olam es ta'usam ha'gedola she'to b'avodah zarah. Whole rest of the world bowing down to idols. Whole rest of the world a group of pagan idolaters. Avram is ivri. He's on the other side of the whole world, teaching the world, stop bowing down to sticks and stones, idols. Stop bowing to the sun and the moon. There's a God. He's invisible. He's greater. He's beyond our comprehension. And we are here to serve Him. That is the purpose of the world. And when he helped influence and attract all those converts, certainly He taught them that human beings were created in the image of God. And that means that when the soul is extracted from the body at the end of life, the lifeless body is not just some empty vessel to be discarded, disposed of. The soul is eternal, the soul is immortal, the soul will live and carry on forever. And we honor the body that housed that soul. The soul that came down here temporarily, and the body was the vehicle, the instrument through which the soul expressed choice, free will in this world. The soul ascends on high, returns to its creator, to God. But we honor with love and affection the body that was the vessel that housed the soul during those years. A lot more to talk about this we have in the past. Chaver Kadisha, Tahara, the Jewish way in death and dying and mourning is all because of that premise. We honor the body. The Chaver Kadisha, we wash from head to toe, comb the hair, we clear the ears, clean under the fingernails, we remove any bandages, any tubes, any catheters. We dress that body in the big day kuna, the tachrichin. Why are we giving such attention and affection, such love and care and concern to a body? It's lifeless. It's going into the ground. It's going to become momentarily worm food and disintegrate. So the soul is immortal and eternal. Honor the soul. The answer is because that body, first of all, the soul hovers above the body till the body's in the ground. And the soul is continuing to identify with the body. After all, hopefully 70, 80, 100 plus years, every time that soul looked in the mirror, it said, that's me. Every mani-pedi, every time you went shopping for clothing, every time you ate or eliminated, every time you had a good shluf and you woke up well rested, each time you cared for that body, every workout, every plunge, every time you cared for the body, you thought that body is me. And now the soul is extracted from the body, looking at that body, and it says, whoa, wait, for 100 years of my taking care of that body, thinking it was me, I exist independent, separate from it. That's not me. That's painful for the soul. As the soul transitions to the next world, until the body's in the ground, the soul's still struggling. When we honor and love that body, we're doing so, we're comforting the soul. Move on Hetev, Lama Kines Avram is Kol B'nei Ches B'Shar Iram. Shayazela Farsem P'tira Sora Imenu. V'Adkama Gedola Aveda, V'Adkama Gadol V'Chashav Inyan Akfura. Avram was using this as a teachable moment. So he gathered the whole community, the whole city, and he wanted them to hear the conversation, see the negotiation, and understand the detail to which he was willing to give his attention, because death and dying is not about disposing of a body, it's about honor and dignity and love and affection. Kesav maleh over la socher. Hakol b'farhase le'enei kol lahar sheyesh chashivas la'adam gam la'achar misa. This was Avraham the Ivri. Avraham ongoing is our founding father, and he's going to right now create the precedent, and he's going to set the stage for our entire attitude to death and dying. And he wanted as many people to see as possible. So if you don't care about the body, what do you do with it at the end of life? You cremate, you burn it, you incinerate it, you destroy it, you obliterate it, you discard it. We who care about the body, we love it, we cherish it, we treat it, tremendous affection, love, care, dignity, and we gently place it in the ground to return to its creator. And Avraham wanted to create that contrast. You pagans who don't believe really in this world or the afterworld, you pagans who think all there is the here and now, there is no immortality of the soul. You pagans who think that the body is just the vehicle to get the most pleasure in this world, and once it's done, cremate it, dispose of it, get rid of it. No. My Sarah, she is with me forever. Her soul lives on in perpetuity. She is eternal and immortal. And this body, this beautiful Sarah, through which I knew her, the world knew her, that housed that soul, love and dignity. I'm going to spend exorbitantly a lot of money. I want to buy that land, and I'm going to be able to give her a death with dignity. How does he introduce himself to Bnei Ches? Ger v'toshav anochi imachem. I am both a resident and a stranger. We've shared countless times. This is the mission statement of every Jew in exile, but every Jew everywhere. I am both a resident and a stranger. I'm a resident. I'm a proud patriot. I'm a citizen. I pay my taxes, and I get to vote, and I can run for office. I participate, and I benefit from society. I'm a resident. I'm a citizen. But simultaneously, as much as I have in common with you, I have nothing to do with you. I'm entirely different. Ger, I'm a stranger. Your culture, your pop culture, your conversation, your wardrobe, your music, your entertainment, it's all foreign to me. It's unfamiliar to me. The Jew has to live, ger v'toshav anochi imachem. I am a resident and a stranger simultaneously at the same time. I live with you, I'm among you, I'm a citizen of you, but I'm also a stranger. And the challenge is to know when and when. With which things am I a resident? What do I contribute? How do I participate? Where am I a citizen? And with which things do I say, no. I have to withdraw and isolate, and I am a stranger to you. Shmuel Berenbaum has a different interpretation. Rashi says here on these words, ger b'toshav, he says, im tirtzu arini ger. If you want, I'm a stranger. And if not, I'm a resident. I'm a resident means I have a right to the land. God promised me, I'm giving you this land. So really, it's my land. I could take it from you. You want to go to court? I'll sue you. I'm going to win. I have the deed. It's from God himself, Almighty. I'll win. But I'd rather start out, and I'm willing to buy it. I'd rather start out as a ger, as a stranger. I'm willing to purchase it. You see from here, says of Shmuel Berenbaum, lechatchila, always try the peaceful way. Always negotiate. Always be willing to pay. Always be willing to compromise. Always make the effort to arrive at a peaceful conclusion. If you have to go to a din Torah, you have to go to court, you have to sue, you have rights. You're entitled to fight for your rights. But that's b'di'evid. Really, ideally, a person should always try to work it out. We saw earlier with Avram and Lot, Al nati miriva beini uveinecha, ki anashim achim anachnu. Let there not be a dispute or conflict. Let there not be a fight between me and you. Why? Anashim achim anachnu. We're brothers. We are brothers. Lo matzah kadosh baruch hu kli machzik bracha Yisrael ela hashalom. God has not found a better vessel to be a source of blessing to us other than peace. When we have peace and harmony among us, God showers us with blessing. When we have conflict and when we have divisiveness, when we fight machlokas, we have no peace. So Avram says, let's do this peacefully. Let's negotiate. I'm happy to pay. I'm happy to overpay. If you insist, we'll go to court. I'm going to win. But I'd rather first try with peace. And this is also part of our legacy as progeny of Avram, particularly within our family. Anashim achim anachnu. When it comes to family, in business and elsewhere, first we start out and we try peacefully. And only if we need to can we go for a din Torah, a beis din, do we go to a rabbinical court. Okay, so Avram buys the land and he negotiates and he buries Sarah. And then the Torah tells us, Untitled Chapter 24. The Avraham zakein ba bayamim. Avram was old, well on in years. Vashem berachas Avram bakol. And God blessed Avram with everything. What is bakol? Bakol could mean a son. Rashi tells us bakol is gematria ben, a son. Others say he had a daughter. We already know about Yishmael and Yitzchak. Bakol means now Avram had a daughter. Bakol also means that he had a philosophy, a life view. Avram lived with Bakol. Bakol, I have everything. Because whatever I have is what Hashem feels I need. So by definition, I have everything. If your happiness is decided, determined by what you have, you can always be happy. Because you have everything that Hashem feels you need. But if your happiness is relying on something that you don't yet have, if I had that spouse, if I had those children, if I had that car, if I had that house, if I had that vacation, if I had that paycheck, I'd be happy. You'll never be happy because there's always more you could have. Avram had an attitude, a worldview of Bakol. He took that bracha of Bakol, Hashem berachas Avram Bakol, and what did he do with it? He bequeathed it to Yitzchak. The pasuk says, "Vayitein es kol asher lo leYitzchak." He gave the coal to Yitzchak. And what did Yitzchak do with his coal? He gave it to Yaakov. Pasuk tells he gave the coal to Yaakov, and we invoke this every time we bench, every time we eat bread. What do we say? Bakol mikol kol kain tiyeh lanu. We want a little bit of the coal. We want some of the coal. We want coal too. We want coal too. So God blessed Avram Bakol. He gave him everything. And Avram says to his servant, Zekan Beiso. His servant is described as the elder of his house. Hamoshel b'chol asher lo, who rules over everything he has. Simna yadcha tachas yirechi. Give me your hand. I want you to promise. Put it on a religious article, a religious object, and I want you to make me a promise. I'm about to send you on a mission, and I want you to make me a promise. Why is Eliezer introduced as Moshel b'kol asher lo? Did Eliezer truly rule over? Was he in charge of everything that Avram had? Wonders Rav Druk in his Lavos Ish. Answers Rav Druk. We have two types of people in this world. Those who own their things and those whose things own them. Some people own their things and other people, things own them. When you have things and you use them, you utilize them, they're functional for you, but they never define you. And they never distort your priorities. And you're never envious and jealous over them. Then you own things. But a person who must have, person who needs, person who loses their identity without that brand, without that object, without that real estate, without that possession, then they don't own their things own them. And that's what the Torah wants to communicate to us, that Eliezer earned Avram's trust, because Eliezer understood that we own things, things don't own us. He's Moshel b'chol asher lo. He rules over everything that Avram has. The Megid Yosef of Yosef Sorotskin. Why is Avram here invoking all of the descriptions of Eliezer? The Torah wants to teach us. Eliezer has all the passwords. Avram's bank account, the passwords, social security numbers, the keys, the safe. Eliezer's got it all. Ad kedekach, so much so is the level of trust Avram has in Eliezer. Here it is. Passwords, credit cards, safe combination. He has it all. And even though when it comes to his possessions, Avram has an endless trust in Eliezer. When it came to his son, when it came to his son, his well-being, his future, his mate, you got to swear to me. When it came to the spiritual needs of his son, the material trustworthiness of Eliezer didn't matter. Some people in their business, you say, what are you so preoccupied? You're constantly reviewing your accounts, your net worth, your portfolio, your investments. What are you so busy with? Give it to someone else. Live life. And what does that person often say? I can't trust anyone else with it. I have to be on top of it. I have to be in charge of it. I can't trust anyone else with it. Your children you send to school for 10 hours a day. The children you leave home with the housekeeper to raise. But your business dealings you can't trust anyone else with. You see from here that Avram was the opposite. Avram was the opposite. Passwords, safe combination, credit card numbers, take it all, I trust you. Oh, a shidduch for my son? Come here, I need you to swear. I need you to promise. I need you to promise. It's been sarcastically said that too many in the Jewish world, when it comes to their jewelry and their cash, they lock it up because the housekeeper might take it. So they have a safe. The jewelry, the cash, the critical documents, they get locked up under key, under safe, under combination. The housekeeper might take it. But the children, you're in charge. You watch them. We'll be out of town. We'll be away. We're on vacation. We're at the spa. We have it backwards. Avram says, when it comes to the cash and the credit cards and the documents, here's the password. I trust you. My children, you got to swear. My children, we have it upside down. We have it backwards on the attitude that we should have. Tefer Shmuel also has a comment here on this pasuk, and he says the following: Avram was incredibly well known for his loving kindness. Beno Yitzchak Haya, and his son Yitzchak was, listen to this, because they for sure spoke Yiddish, Avram and Yitzchak. The beste Bocher in the Welt, says the Tefer Shmuel. HaBachur Achi Tov Ba'olam. Yitzchak for sure was the best Bocher. He was the top. He was the top. Every Shadchan, the top of their list, not only because his father was wealthy, Avram, but Yitzchak, the best of Bocher. He was the best. Even by Pidi, he was the best. Yitzchak was the best. Hayatzadik Yisod Olam Sheneka the Karban V'Afarat Tzibur Tamil Al Mizbech Vadia Bal Midos Meromemes. Yitzchak Gvura. Yitzchak was willing to die on the altar. Yitzchak was Keilu. He lived his life like he was offered to God. Avram was known. Avram Goyim. Avram is the biggest influencer. He's got millions of people following him online. He's got wealth, fortune, fame. So bevadai, Aya Eliezer Motzes HaShidduch. What's Avram working so hard? He has to recruit Eliezer. He has to make him swear. He has to send them on a mission. They have to undergo a test. What's he working hard? He's got the easiest shidduch ever. His son is Yitzchak. All you have to announce is he's in Shidduchim. He's on the market. That's it. Now sit back. And now the door is going to get knocked in. The phone's going to ring off the hook. You're good to go. He's the best bacher. Lama yitzarach Avram lashbias Eliezer b'nekitas chayfetz litein Eliezer shtar matana. He goes to such extremes. He undergoes such initiative. Why? V'yesh lamadis of medrash ela harbe kategorin yamdu bikan v'ad gichon prapin Shidduchim ein atoli ba'achas v'mekal bavad shreish gam horim v'achim v'achayos v'gam stam anoshim akirim anostim dea b'shidduch v'chol echad mehem l'chud yachol la'akiv es hashidduch mikol mini tamim mishunim. He says, you see from here, you can have the best young man in the world, the best young lady in the world. And if they were the only variables in this equation, good to go. Problem is, there's a lot of other variables. You got parents, you got siblings, you got cousins, you got community members, you got personalities, you got people, you got shadchanim, you got dating coaches, you got 1,000,001 variables and factors. If people would get out of the way, if we wouldn't introduce new problems, if we wouldn't make it so complicated with FBI investigation, interrogation, if we wouldn't complicate it and it just was the merit of the young man and young lady, we'd be golden. But their parents, aunts and uncles, neighbors, friends, shadchanim, and we make it complicated. And therefore, now we got to daven hard. Now, you have to undergo enormous effort. Because of the impediments and obstacles, the man-made, artificial, unnecessary. I'm editorializing a little bit here. I don't have strong feelings at all on this subject. Because of the man-made problems, obstacles that we place, Now you need superhuman initiative to overcome them. Whereas if we just would eliminate the obstacles, you wouldn't need the superhuman initiative of reference calls and reference checks and resumes. This is true in our time as well. We should simplify and not complicate. Avraham has to undergo enormous initiative because of how complicated these issues are. And so complicated, in fact, he makes a comment later that Eliezer has to do something else. Later, Perach of Dalet Pasuk Tezvav, skipping ahead for a moment, top of the next page, 112. It tells us, Vayihu terem kilal daber v'inei Rivka yotzeis. Right, Eliezer says, I'm coming with my camels. My boss and this young man, their hallmark, chesed. They're incredible in being selfless and giving and loving kindness. I need a girl just like that. How will I know? The one who offers not only me something to drink, but cares about my camels too. He is just finishing speaking, and Rivka comes out. She's coming out with the jug on her shoulder. She's going to offer him and the camels to drink. The Malbim comments on this pasuk says, no coincidences. There's no chance. There's no randomness. Right when Eliezer is busy done having this conversation with God, making this condition, this deal, punkt. Right then, who comes out? Rivka. Why was Rivka there? Why did Rivka emerge? Her father is a wealthy man. He's got a whole staff. She's not really the shepherd. She's not really responsible to draw the water. The word hinei teaches us something new. She was there really not for an explainable reason. It was hashkacha, divine intervention. Right when Eliezer finished, she showed up. It's a shidduch that's made in heaven. Lamadni mikan davar pella says of Shmuel Berenbaum. Afa pisha Eliezer yakom asher yitzarich lishil limtzo shidduch haytov bioser. Eliezer's armed. He's got it all to find a good shidduch. He's got the resume, the pedigree, the yichus. He's got the jewelry, the gifts, the money. He's got it all. Asar gemalim avadim. Gamar Yitzchak, the best of Bacher. Ilu asa Kadosh Baruch Hu nei zeh shelo kederach hateva v'inei Rivka yotzeis ha'elohais hadarka bakach b'yosef bas besur shaya ashir nimtza im kol ha'ishtadla she'asa ha'yaroy lasos below tefila ha'ya Eliezer chozer la'Avram Avinu rekam. It was a miracle that she happened to be there in that moment. She happened to come out. She's never normally there. She's not a shepherdess. She doesn't need to be. Her father's wealthy. He has a whole staff. Hashem intervened. God choreographed this entire scene to unfold that she would be there in the right moment at the right time. And you see that with all the initiative we take, often extreme, too much initiative in this area, ultimately, you need him. And therefore, we have to daven. That's what the pasuk, Gemara Brachas Daf Ches quotes the pasuk Tehillim. Azos yispalel kol chaser ilach leis mitzo, amar b'chanin leis mitzo zu isha shinemar, matzah isha matzah tov. Mitzia zivog tali b'koach hatfila. Shidduchim, for ourselves, for our children, for our grandchildren, if we want them to find a mate, a spouse, their basher, yes, you gotta maybe even hire a shadchan. You gotta go to meet the shadchanite. Check our weekly. We have our amazing local volunteer shadchanim are doing another meet the shadchan night to continue to advocate and meet local singles and help. Sign up for it. I don't remember when it is. This Motzei Shabbos maybe. It's coming up. Check it out. Got to take initiative. Meet the shadchanim. Maybe even have one on retainer. Maybe even have to engage in that part of it. Take initiative. Be out there. Network. Make a resume. With all that, without tefillah, without davening to Hashem, Eliezer would have gone home. He never would have met Rivka. Rivka wasn't supposed to be there. If not for God orchestrating her in that moment, she shouldn't have been there. With everything else we do, we have to daven to Hashem. What does Eliezer say? He sees her. Pasuk Chav Gimel. She gives him to drink. She gives the camels to drink. And now that the thirst is quenched, Vayomer, he says, Bas mi'at. Whose daughter are you? Hagidina. Tell me, Hayesh beis avich makom lanu lalin? Whose daughter are you? And tell me, by the way, you think your father has an extra room, a guest suite, a place that we can sleep? Again, a place that we can stay over. The Megad Yosef of Yosef Suratskin says on this pasuk. So, seeming non sequitur. What's the connection between the two things? Eliezer asked two questions. What's your yichus? Who are your parents? Who's your father? And by the way, you know of an inn, a hotel, you have a room, can we stay over? Do chesed. Listen to this insight. The two questions, whose daughter are you? And can you offer some chesed? And she answers, the daughter of Besuel. So whose daughter are you? How long should that take to get the answer to that? Google it. Put her name in. Rivka Bas Besuel, Google. You'll know everything you need to know. 2 seconds. You can check it all. You can get her father's bank account, check her genealogy. You could see whether they were honored at the school dinner ever. You can find it all. Where she went to camp, where she went to seminary. Masha'en kein mivchan chesed, the second part. She do chesed, you host people, hospitality, do you care? Do you take care of others? That second test is longer. At night, come over after we're done with the water, with the well. Take a full day. It takes a full night. You offer a meal. Do you offer hospitality? First, he wanted to see, will she give me and the camels to drink? And only when she meets that test does he say, Basmiat, who's your father? What's your name? What's your yichus? It was out of order. First, do the thing that takes no time at all, Google. And now, if it's shaykh because you did the Google, now investigate. Now you can see whether she does chesed. He gets it backwards. So what do you see from here? What do you see from here? He says, Biur, Adoni Avimori Rabbi, Suratskin quotes his father, Shemivchan chesed amiti v'nokev yachol arich rak be'ilum shem mitoch almunios gemura. Ilu Eliezer yapol lefi aseder atov, haposech bekvia zahusa, haisonotzeres yikares b'neim u'melech asher mavakish tova haisanenis bal korcha k'dishma shma tov. If he first found out her name and the connection and the relationship, it wouldn't really be a test of the chesed that she did. The kach Eliezer asal mivchan chesed be'ilum shem. He wanted first to see her character, who she was, with anonymity, without knowing. And only then, so she wouldn't be doing it in order to protect or preserve her family name, to keep up her yichus. She'd be doing it because it's right, because it's her instinct, because it's the right thing to do. And that was his test. That was his test. I see from here a little bit of a different message, which is, do we first go through reference checks, yichus, third degree interrogation, and then we'll go on a date and see, do they say please and thank you to the waiter? Do they have manners and derech eretz, their character? Eliezer did it the opposite. See a person, who they are and what they are. You want to then check on a little yichus, so then make sure, then confirm, then check on a little bit of yichus. That's the order. We don't do interrogations. We don't start out, I'm sure this is a good reason not to. Let me just confirm that by calling anyone they ever met, getting DNA samples. Let me first confirm that by getting their report cards and tax statements of the parents. And once I confirm that, we can move on. No, the opposite. Let them meet each other. Let them see each other. Let them have a draw and attraction to each other. Let them see the chesed, the character. And then, bas miat. By the way, let me make a phone call. Let me just check there's no axe murderer. They're not really an axe murderer. That's the order that he goes in. Okay. Bas miat. Bas miat. The two things Rav Druk says really go together. You would have thought it's a non sequitur. Bas miat and yesh makom lanu lalin. Do you have a place for us to stay? What he was asking was, I'll learn everything about your parents. When you answer my question, do your parents offer hospitality? Bas miat, do you have a place for me to sleep? We're not two separate questions. They were zel bazach. It was really one and the same. Who are your parents? Do they ever have guests? Do they ever have guests? We'll answer, who are your parents? I'll know about them. I'll know about them. A lot of people wait, and then it's too late till their children are in Shidduchim. There are people, believe it or not, who've come to me who said, where can I volunteer? What can I do? I said, it's beautiful. It's amazing. I'm inspired. Where did this sudden burst of inspiration come from? My kids starting Shidduchim. I know you're going to get called. Are they involved? Do they volunteer? Do they give? Do they do anything? I said, buddy, you're a little bit late. You're a bit late on this one. You know, you can't wake up when your child is beginning and now want to form your brand. Who your brand is, who you are your whole life. Because guess what? Someone in a WhatsApp group somewhere is going to mention your name with the people you went to camp with. You went to school, yeshiva, or seminary with. Who you are and who your brand is your whole life is how your children, unfortunately or fortunately, will be judged. So you can't wake up when they're ready to enter the circuit and decide, let me now start to give a lot of tzedakah, volunteer for a lot of things. Let me undergo a major brand upgrade. Something to think about. What we do is who we are. How we live is who we are, is our brand, is our name, is how we're known. Basmiat. If I ask around about your parents, do we have makom laluna light? You have a place? Do they open their house? Do they host? Do they hang up the phone when the shul calls and says, could someone eat? Could you put somebody up for the weekend? Do they hang up the phone? Or are you the go-to call? Basmiat. Who are your parents? Don't wait till it's too late, till those calls are being made to work on having an answer to it. You got to start much earlier. Oh, man. I don't understand how it happens. I don't understand. I'm not happy. Okay, one last one. Perach Chafei Pasuk Tes. Let's get to the end of the parsha, and then I'll pretend that we learned the whole parsha. Perach Chafei Pasuk Tes, the very end. Sadly, we lost Sarah Imenu at the beginning of the parsha, and we lose Avraham at the end. Can you believe we're up to Parsha Chayei Sarah already? I don't understand how this happened. Noach came and went. Avram, Sarah came and went. That's it. This parsha, we just said hello. We're already saying goodbye. Perach Chafei Pasuk Yud chapter, page 122 rather. We're ending with this. Vayi acharei mos Avraham vayivarach Elokim es Yitzchak beno. When Avram died, God blessed Yitzchak his son. Vayishav Yitzchak in Be'er Lachai Ro'i, and Yitzchak settled near Be'er Lachai Ro'i. Says Rashi, what does it mean? Avram died, God blessed Yitzchak. Nichamun tanchume avelim. God paid a shiva call. God offered nichum avelim. He comforted him. Where do you see in the pasuk that God comforted him? Vayivarach Elokim es Yitzchak. He blessed him. Where is the comfort? Says Rav Druk, Nira Levayer. Ki mitzvos nicham avelim es kayemes that the kibudem shakrovei hanifter. Hainu yekra dechai, kavar achayim. Etzem zeh shenigla kadosh baruch hu Yitzchak b'dei levarcha achar mos Avram. Ein lecha nesinas kavod gedola mizu. V'lachein bracha zu nachshavas kenicham avelim. You see, he's sowed here that God enabled Yitzchak to continue the legacy of Avram is the most comforting thing in the world. When we can continue the legacy of those who came before us, when we can follow in their footsteps, when they lived through us, when we are blessed to have the opportunity to continue their life purpose, their life mission, that's the ultimate nichum. So even though the pasuk just says Avram died, God blessed Yitzchak, he blessed Yitzchak with the capacity to continue the legacy of Avram, and that is the most comforting thing there is. When we want to comfort a mourner in our lives, the greatest comfort we could offer them is our commitment to continue the legacy of the one they lost. That's the ultimate expression of comfort you see from the end of the parsha. We'll pick up with the mitzvah next time. Should be Besoros Tovos, a day that we hear good news. Please stay. We'll divide Sefer Tehillim. We divide it. We can complete the entire Sefer Tehillim quickly. Should hear Besoros Tovos, Yeshuos, V'Nechamas.